It is good to be seen. I hope that you all are well. I wanted to start off by asking a question. What is the most transformative book you have ever read? The book that was a real game changer for you. For me, that book is Monster Kody. And this has been on my mind for about a week, because that is when I got the news that Sayika Shakur, aka Kody Scott, aka Monster Kody, passed away at the age of 57. And I instantly went back to the time in my life in which the book was handed to me by my sister, my older sister, who was a half mom, half sister type situation, because for most of my life, she cared more about my education than I did. And it was given to me in the 10th grade. And that was when I started high school, and I was underachieving in school. I also was playing football, but at that point in high school, that's when they take the weight limit out, okay? So I've been playing football since I was in like the 6th grade, with some success. It was fun to me, and I had these dreams of being a professional football player from the time I was 5 years old. I just wanted to play professional football. That was it. And then I would get upset when I would meet an older guy and he would say something, oh, you gotta have a backup plan. Like, I don't have no backup plan. I'm gonna play in the NFL. Okay. So when I got to high school and they took that weight limit away, and I was a good 125 pounds, and I was having to go head up with kids that were close to 200 pounds. I knew in all of those moments, once we got the gear, I knew, me being a professional football player was out. Like, that was not going to happen for me. And I think I also knew that I was not going to play at the college level, which was big for me because I had an uncle and my brother was playing college ball at the time. And it was like, I come from a family of athletes, right? And I just didn't have what it took to be a standout prep football player. So I have all this weight. I basically don't know what I'm going to do with my life. The trappings of the hood are all around me. I was dabbling a little bit, nothing major, but I was doing things that I knew better than, that I should not have been engaging in. And I had friends that were being kicked out of school and friends that were committing themselves to the streets. And I lived in a place that was more often than not a war zone and was at odds with other neighborhoods, a lot of drama going on. And I just did not want to get caught up in that. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to do something righteous. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. The issue was that as young Black men, we often value ourselves by how good we are with a ball in our hand. So how you perform in basketball or football or whatever, baseball, whatever the case, that's how you look at yourself. So your identity is totally woven into how you perform in the realm of sports. And all of these other things, such as art and academics and just how you socialize, like as a person, your passions, all of that, it becomes secondary. It's all about your involvement with sports. And so once I was not able to perform in sports at a level that I knew would get me to the next level or would get me attention for the papers or for women or for whatever, I began to look at myself as less than. My own self-esteem began to become lower, and I was just trying to engage in school. sports are like out. I mean, I still played, but like as far as that dream was gone. So it's like, okay, I'm trying to engage in school, but I felt like a lot of the content was not engaging to me. Now, I did have some good teachers that were young and they were vibrant and they cared, but I felt like there were a lot of books that were devoted to women and young Black girls, but there just wasn't a book, a text that I had found that spoke to me. I remember wanting to get into English, specifically wanting to do more in my English class, but I hadn't found the book that resonated with me. The year before, I was given a book, The Color Purple, right? And I was in the 9th grade, but it didn't, speak to my experience as a Black man coming into myself. I remember in elementary school, the book Roll the Thunder, Hear My Cry. It was a banger, but I also followed the life of a Black girl. And I just couldn't see myself in the text until I was given Monster Kody, once again, by my dear sister. She was reading it. This book is crazy. She said, you have to read this. And I read it, and I remember, it's almost, wow. So I remember reading the book. It's like so powerful, like it's coming back to me. But I remember reading the book, and I became so wrapped up in this book. And I was looking up the vocabulary words, and I was just so in tune with the book and the way in which Kody was speaking was so. He was talking about very hood, very violent forms of subject matter, right? Very violent subject matter, right? Very hood stuff, but he was doing it in a way that it was very straightforward. It was as a general would speak to an army, but it was also a lot of intellect in his approach to gangbanging. Like it was very like psychological, the way that he would speak and the way that he would break down each circumstance and a way in which he would break down his neighborhood and the different factions of his neighborhood and the different components of a gang, him being a banger, but there were people that stole, there were people that hustled, there were people that did a lot of different things, people that carjacked, people that did a lot of different things. And his approach to it, I remember it washed over me in such a way, just the way in which he was writing, that my thoughts came to me differently. Meaning the thoughts that would come to my head begin to come to me in sentence form and in paragraph form, where never before in my life had they done that. So when I'm thinking of, what I'm going to say to the teacher or the bus that I'm going to catch home, it came to me in a way that was structurally sound. And it was so amazing, like this transformation, because not only had that never been the case before, but my brain, my thoughts have never been scattered in the way that they were before I read this book, because the book was the gateway for more books, to Soul on Ice, to Richard Wright, to Ralph Ellison, and The Invisible Man. And all of these things, just me trying to find my identity outside of sports and trying to establish myself as an intellectual. And it started with that book. And it was just the feeling. I just want you guys to understand the feeling. It was almost, okay, so I know a girl who spoke Spanish. She was American, but she spoke Spanish. She visited Cuba, and she was in Cuba for a whole semester. This was in college, right? So she was in Cuba for a whole semester. And she said she remembered the moment in which her thoughts came to her in Spanish. She started thinking in Spanish, and she started dreaming in Spanish. And it was like, whoa, like it was a revelatory experience for her. It's just like, I have totally immersed into this lifestyle. That's how it was for me with this text. I started thinking whole thoughts, full thoughts, continuous thoughts that were totally organized. It absolutely organized my thoughts. Now, the actual text is so extreme, and it's so extreme in terms of the content. I don't know how he didn't get the gas chamber for all of the things that he was talking about doing in the book. I was in the beginning of the text. It's a lot. It's just like a whole lot, right? But that's what it took for me as a 15-year-old. That's what it took for me to be like, oh my God, that's what it took to get me into the world of literature. And so he talked about the night of his 6th grade graduation. And the night of his 6th grade graduation served as he's 12 years old. It served as his initiation into the 8 Trey Crips, which was the faction of Crips that he was involved in. And he got a shotgun. I'm gonna say a few spoilers here, right? But basically, he was given a shotgun and he shot down rival gang members. Like at the age of 12, he snuck out the house. His mom was like, boy, you better not leave. He snuck out the back door and went and visited his homie, started drinking alcohol, and they went out and put in some work on rivals. And he remembers the feeling of being 12 years old and shooting these men down. And I said, damn, you know what? After my 6th grade promotion, I went to Red Robin with my family, and it was really special. And I had my robe. Like, what? It was so wild for me. And I remember thinking that he depicts the ghetto America is a 3rd world country, and we associate child soldiers with Rwanda or with Tamil tigers in Sri Lanka and other places, right? I think Vietnam or Cambodia, they had some famous child soldiers that made the rounds in terms of news. But we don't associate child soldiers with the United States, but there are children who are associated with gangs and are killing people. And I was in the hood, but I wasn't in the hood in the capacity that he was. And I remember thinking, after all these stories of him going to juvenile hall, and it's so visceral and so violent, and him beating people up. And there was one incident, and he made a guy drink his urine. And I remember it being such a wake-up call for me, because obviously, like, I am not built for any of that. I need to study harder in school, because I am not going to be involved in, I don't have what it takes to do all of that, right? I'm not going to engage in the destruction of my culture. So there was that. But I also remember I remember thinking, he took it so far with this book that literature, we can never go to that place. Like, he has that title as the most violent autobiography ever produced in terms of Black literature. A lot of people kind of gloss over the things that they were involved in the streets, even people that commit murders, but no one took it as far as Kody did, as Sanyika did. And if I can equate it to something, it's like Hit 'em Up. It's like, so what Hit 'em Up is to Diss records, that's what Monster Kody is to the gangster autobiography. Like, no one can ever take it that far, and we don't want to take it that far. We'll hit him up. We have Tupac killed, we have Biggie killed, and it's just like, okay, we don't want to approach that. You talking about wives and my fofo, make sure all your kids don't grow. Like, yo, okay, you got it, bro. You got it. We don't need to take it there anymore. Okay, you have that title. It's the same thing with Kody. It's just like, okay, all the gore and violence of gangster life, we got it, but the book is so much more because his ability to talk about how basically he had to be conditioned to love his hood so much that he was willing to kill anyone that disrespected his neighborhood, to these points where you would turn a page and he would be like, and then that was the summer that I turned, or that was when I turned 16 years old. You're like, oh my goodness. And then he had to be a father. And there was a situation where he was shot, and he was shot on a few occasions. And just that juncture of having to be this soldier, but then having to be human and having to find these spaces where you are vulnerable. And all the things that you do on the streets, that doesn't hold any weight when it's time for you to interact with your daughter. And you have to learn how to be a different person for these different circumstances. And all the things that you were raised to be just holds no weight. And you have to learn how to love yourself so you can love other people. The way in which he oscillates this world of being super hardcore, but still being a human, being a man and being a Black man was very profound. And I'll never forget that. There's a situation in prison where there was another guy from an allied gang, and he taught him how to cry because he had never learned how to cry as a man. And so just that, him having all these things that he's done and holding all this rank in his neighborhood, but still not knowing having to be taught how to be a human being. And the book was so riveting for me. I remember by the end of it, I had an idea of how I thought that the book was going to go. And I thought it was going to be like a Malcolm X type situation. I hadn't read the book Malcolm X, but I'd seen the movie, and there was going to be a total transformation. And that did not happen. He was born once he was 12 years old, and he devoted his life to his gang. He could not, there was no turning back. That was his kingdom. And he was not going to abandon his kingdom for anything. And I remember trying to reconcile that in my brain and coming to terms with like, yo, this was almost too real. You almost want some form of a fairy tale or something, but it never, not a fairy tale, but you want a sense of just a total 180. And now I realize that all of the things that I did were wrong, and they grappled with that. I think that he grew a lot in the course of the text, but not to a point where you would think that he would condemn the younger him, and now he would truly learn to love all Black men and devote himself to the community in a positive way. That never really happened. But then I thought about it, well, in the real world, that rarely happens. And people that are as down for their set as he was down for their set, be it the Bay, LA, Chicago, New York, Miami, New Orleans, wherever, that's how they live their lives. And even if they go on to, get a job or be a father or whatever, there's always a component of their lives that is willing to spring into action when it comes to their neighborhood. And I think, the irony is not lost on me that Sanika Shakur was caught up in, the guy caught up in the gang epidemic as a teenager, but he also was caught up in the homeless epidemic. According to the San Diego Times, he died in a makeshift encampment. And for people that don't know, half of the homeless population that live in the United States are in the state of California. In Oakland, where I'm from, Black people now represent, oh my God, I think like 24%. We're down to like 24% of the population, maybe even less, but we represent 70% of the homeless population. And so this homeless epidemic, just like the gang epidemic, is affecting Black people at a much higher rate. And I think that Kody was involved in both of them. And I don't know how exactly he perished, but for a man that was a general, a man that commanded so many things in his neighborhood, for him to die in a homeless encampment it hurts. It hurts to know that. I also have to be real and keep in mind that he was 57, and that is a lot older than a lot of the people that he, through his own admission, through his own book, that's a lot older than a lot of people that he took out of this life, that he took off this planet, were able to see. And we cannot forget about that. We have to keep everything in total context when we talk about Kody and his legacy. But I do want to say this, as far as Kody Scott, aka Sanika Shakur, aka Monster Kody, the writer, he had a profound impact on my life and my writing style. And I try to incorporate all of the analysis and the psychoanalysis and the way in which he could break down a scene from every conceivable angle. I tried to incorporate that into my writing style. And that book was the first book of my library. That was the first book. My sister gave it to me, and I later bought a copy for myself. And that was the first book that I bought with my own. Well, no, that's not true, because I used to go to the book fair as a kid. But that was the first book. That was the first book in my adult library. And from that, I ended up getting into, after I got into James Baldwin, and I got into Zora Neale Hurston, and I got into James Weldon Johnson, and I got into Frederick Douglass and Linda Brent, Harriet Jacobs, and all of the slave narratives. And I got into so many books, just trying to feed this intellectual hunger that was started by this book, Monster Kody. So I just really appreciate him for laying his life on the line and saving me in a lot of ways, and stimulating me mentally, and enabling me to go down the path that I went down. And I obviously went to college and went to grad school, and now I teach college and I write as well, man. So, man, I appreciate that brother's life. I appreciate his narrative. I appreciate his testimony. And I would recommend that if you know of a Black child, a Black teenager, or anyone that could benefit from reading Monster Kody, or you're curious from the things that I've stated, then go ahead and get this book. It doesn't get any more raw. It doesn't get any more real than that text. And I think that that's going to stand forever. I think that that's going to be true forever. All right. So look, check this out. Once again, everybody, look, smash the like button, man. Smash the like button, man. Likes are free. They're free. Y'all look, give me, man, press that button. Stop playing. Share as well. And as always, subscribe to the tribe. Yo, put your book down there. What book changed the game for you? What book transformed your life? What book got you high when you needed to be lifted up, when you needed to be taken to another level? Let me know about that transformative book in the chat. I appreciate you all. Look, man, we're over 200 subscribers. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for me, man. I appreciate y'all, man. I appreciate y'all, my faithful, my people to be watching, my people to be sharing, my people to be liking. Even people that don't engage with the content, but you hit me up. You hit me up. I appreciate that video. Man, it's all love, man. So we're just going to keep growing the platform. Aqua Black Tribe, you know what it is. Appreciate y'all. Peace, tribe. And another.